everybody. So I finally found the time and the desire to film this book review. It took me a while to read it, to want to talk about it, to record it, partially because everything that's been going on in my life, partially because I really didn't care for the book. So let's get into it. I read The Ice Twins by S.K. Tremaine. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry if I'm not. I'm going to try not to spoil the book, but I am going to say that there's a spoiler warning just in case that there's something you just don't want to know anything about it. You want to be completely surprised. There might be a little bit of a spoil. Nothing too crazy. I definitely won't talk about how the ending happened or any big points. So the summary on the back of the book states that there's this family that was hit with tragedy when one of their twin daughters was in an accident and died. And the problem is that they can't figure out which daughter it was that died because they are identical twins. A year after the incident, the daughter claimed to be the other daughter, which is what confused them as to who was actually alive. This sends the whole family down a path that they thought that they were finally moving on from, and the daughter is becoming more disturbed as time goes on. A little bit creepy, if you ask me. I must admit, I'm a little bit morbid. So before I even picked up the book, I saw that summary and I said, the other twin must have done it. The one twin, she's getting disturbed. The other one died. Things are changing. She's trying to change her identity. All I could think to myself is, she did it. I did not realize that the twin was like 6 or 7 years old. So that kind of changed my thought process there. So I wasn't exactly sure what happened at that point, nor could I make a prediction or like kind of pretend to know what's going on. I couldn't do that with this book once I found out how old they were. I still stuck with it because I made that prediction and I wanted to see it through, but I knew I wasn't going to be right. I figured before I found out their age, oh, there was an accident. One of the twins died. The other twin panicked, took over the identity. I really didn't know. My other thought that it could have been was that, maybe when the twin died, the other one felt like maybe they weren't being as cared for or given that attention, and they didn't feel like the favorite child or favored, so they switched to the other siblings so that they could maybe get more attention or get what they were missing from their parents. I wanted to film my prediction before getting into the book, but I couldn't. It took me forever to get into that book. And by that time, I'd already forgotten to record the prediction. It was on my laptop written down, but I just didn't record it. And then I figured I might as well just wait until I'm done and film it all together. The book itself is 306 pages long, which normally wouldn't take me any time at all to finish, especially if I'm into the book. But this took me weeks, like multiple weeks. I'm not saying that the book was terrible. I'm saying that it wasn't as enjoyable to me as other books that I read. I have to say, after reading the first couple pages and figuring out that the twin was as young as she was, it took me a week to actually continue reading it. I stopped reading it after that. It was such a boring introduction that I just didn't read it. But I told myself that I started it, I have to finish it. This is what I have to do. It's just what it is. And I wanted to know what happened. So I forced myself to get through it. I read about 10 pages that first night. I got mildly aggravated and I really don't know why, but I couldn't go back into it. So I needed that time to force myself. As a reader, I love reading all different kinds of books. Different genres intrigue me in their own way. And I have had books that have had a slower start that I forced myself through, and before I knew it, the book was amazing and I completely forgot about that slow start. This was not one of those books. I thought it was. It was not. It felt like in general there was just no desire. There was no, after that slow part it started getting really good. It was missing. Personally, I feel like the author tried really hard to put in a plethora of complex vocabulary words, and normally that wouldn't bother me. I've read books that have these big words to describe things, and that's not the problem. I mean, big words aren't a problem itself. I just feel like the author was literally doing it so often that it was like, are you doing it to actually describe it and give it that like detail? Or are you doing it because you want to seem like you know big words? And that's kind of why I was put off a little bit at first, because I don't mind that. But when you're doing it so often that I don't feel immersed in the story anymore, I just, you know, I don't have that desire to continue. So I got back into the book, and again, it still took me a long time to get through it. And I want to clarify, the story itself wasn't bad. It was the execution of the story, I think, that turned me off the most. I hated the characters. There was no emotions to have them. There was no attachment, nothing. I just genuinely despised these characters. Like, I hated reading about them. I hated them the more I read about it. I think that the only characters I genuinely liked were the dog, kind of the daughter, iffy on that, and like the husband's friend. That's it. Nothing else. And you didn't really see the husband's friend that often in the book, so it wasn't that enjoyable. In my opinion, the daughter, her name's Kirsty, she's just an innocent victim in this whole thing. Yes, she's disturbing. Yes, she's creepy, but she's just a child, and it's not her fault that she is acting out this way. At the end of the day, she's just a scared little girl. The husband's friend and his wife were genuinely like caring people who wanted the best for this family that had went through such a big tragedy, which I do love that. And the husband's friend himself, he also had some big things that he went through. And I think that even though they don't show that in the story, I do think that that kind of gives him a lot more character depth and emotion and attachment and everything that the main characters do not have. And that's probably why I like him so much. But again, you don't see these people that often in the book, so I can't like them that much because I don't get to enjoy them. Now, as far as the parents in the story, I really don't like them, especially like being a parent. I just, nothing they did was actually for their child. And I think that's what I hate the most. I just don't like them. I more so despise the mother. In the beginning, I didn't really like the husband. I couldn't care less about him, but it takes a while. But they give you the bigger picture, and as you get through the bigger picture, you realize that, yeah, you don't completely hate him. There's some kind of good qualities about him, but he still did things very wrong, and he was still not a good character. Essentially, the entire story is about the mother being self-centered and all about herself, not about her grieving. Well, it's only about her, not about her husband's grieving, not about her daughter's grieving, not about her daughter's trauma, nothing. It is all about her. It's about her pain, her lack of love with her husband, and losing her favorite daughter because her favorite daughter died. I don't understand how you can look at your children and pick a favorite. I mean, I know a lot of people say everybody does it. Maybe it's because I only have one child. I can't speak at that point then, but like, come on. You're so adamant about talking about how this is not your favorite child. It's not the first time she mentions it. It won't be a few times. It'll be a lot. She was so caught up in the fact that she no longer looked like the perfect little family with her husband anymore. Now they were broken because her daughter died. Not any other reason than her perfect little family that people usually envied is no longer perfect. Like, what? All she talked about was how beautiful her daughters were. And they were so rare because they were not just identical, but they were so identical that they didn't even have a beauty mark out of place. And it was very hard for them to tell them apart. Blah, blah, blah. That's it. They were perfect. Everybody ogled them. They were beautiful. That's great. But these are children. This is your family. Like, listen, I talk up my son all the time, how perfect he is, how he's my little boy, how he's so smart, this and that. But like, there's a point where you get over it and it's not the only thing you think or talk about. And I'm not envious to try to be the perfect family. Like, that's where I'm like, okay, talk about how perfect your daughters are. But then you talk about how they're your favorites. But then you talk about how you're not perfect anymore because your favorite daughter died. Like, that's where I'm kind of bothered. She also pisses me off so much because the amount of time she talks about cheating on her husband kind of disgusts me. And it's not the cheating part that disgusts me. I mean, You do you, not my thing, but like, I'm not here to judge you. What I'm judging you about is that you're so like arrogant about it. She's not remorseful. She's very well, he wouldn't have known if I didn't tell him that I cheated. And, it's his fault that I cheated. And, he should have forgiven me kind of thing. Like that kind of mentality. And it's like, okay, like, really? You want to brag about how you didn't get caught? I don't think that's really something that's important, especially if you're supposedly mourning the death of your daughter. She will sit there and be like, yeah, I cheated on him because he wouldn't give me attention. But like, I still want him to love me and I still love him and I still want to have sex with him. And I'm like, that's awesome. Nobody cares. Continue. I'm irked. I'm really irked. And then, she's supposedly grieving the loss of her daughter, but like she's mad that her husband doesn't want to sleep with her. And I'm like, some people handle grief in different ways. Like maybe that's not what he's into. He's still grieving, even if it's a year after, even if it's 10 years after, he may not be the same. And it's just like, she never considered his feelings about it. She told her husband that she cheated. And like, she's like, yeah, like, he forgave me. He took me back because, he wasn't giving me the love and this and that. And, you know, it was so well hidden. I'm like, I'm so proud of you. You can keep a secret. Like, okay, maybe he wasn't doing something right. Maybe he wasn't giving you the attention you wanted. But like, really, we're going to talk about it like this much. It does come up quite a lot in the book. Like a lot. Aggravatingly a lot. It also killed my desire to read this book. In order to not spoil the ending, what you find out and the reasoning on what happened that day and how her daughter died makes you hate her more because, as always, she's self-absorbed and couldn't pay too much attention. So it is 100% her fault what happened. I blame her. I don't like her, and I can't like a character like that. I honestly was so disgusted by the situation. I don't know how I would have handled that specific situation if I was in their shoes, but like personally, all I could say is like my son will always come first. He is always my top priority. That's just how I am. People may not agree with that. There might be different reasonings for that. And I'm not saying that nobody else is important, but my son comes above everything. So when you see that this character is trying to talk about this perfect family, but she doesn't have that mindset where her kids ever came first, I get a little turned off. If she wanted that picture perfect family so bad, she should have put her kids first because maybe she would have prevented everything that happened. Even the way she like thinks of herself and her flaws, like, because she'll acknowledge a few, one really flaw. And she even talks about it in such a snobby way. And I'm like, do you really see it as a flaw or do you just want to act like you see it as a flaw? Like, I'm really getting snobby vibes from her. The other thing is, like, she gets angry for other people in her life doing the same thing she does. Like, for instance, her mom has the same, like, character trait that she has. And when her mom does it, she gets pissed off and wants to scream at her. And I'm like, but when you do it, you think it's okay. And you acknowledge that you do it. But when she does it, it's a problem. Or when she finds out her husband did something just as bad as she has done in the past, she gets pissed at him and makes it seem like what he did is worse than what she did. And it's a very competitive thing. It's not like there's no room for error around her kind of thing. And I just can't. I really can't. But yeah, like I said, overall, I don't like her. I don't want to get into her too much more than I already have. I'm wasting time here. The husband, he has a lot of aggression. Like he contemplates murder a few times. And it's creepy to me. Like, I don't think that you should ever be that angry. But also, given everything he knows a lot more than he leads on. I kind of get it at the same time why he's so angry. But again, it's no excuse to be that way. You shouldn't have put yourself in that situation to continue feeling that way. If he hates his wife so much, he could have left her. You should have left her. Might have been easier for everybody. Or, I'm just spitballing here, maybe don't bottle it in and pretend that everything is okay. Talk to her. Share your anger. Get it out. Work on it. Get therapy. Something. The couple themselves, both the husband and the wife, they lie and pretend so much. You'd think they would have learned that it doesn't work. Like it's just making the situation worse. But they don't learn that. They just continue doing it till the very end. I think that if they would have just kind of handled everything a little differently, it would have ended better. The daughter is a victim, but she's creepy. Absolutely horrifying at times. I still like her character and I feel horrible for everything she's been through and the trauma that she endured and how she really couldn't talk about it. So I do feel bad for her in that, but it doesn't change the fact that it was just a little bit creepy. Just a little bit. I would have gotten her an exorcist at times. She was that kind of creepy. Honestly, throughout the story, there were times where I really thought she was going to like murder the entire family. Like I thought she was a sociopath. Her outbursts were exceptionally creepy. And there's kind of an aspect to the book that I can't understand. Unfortunately, the author doesn't give a lot of detail on how the daughter does certain things or if the daughter is really doing it. It kind of gives this illusion that there's like a ghost of the other daughter. And I can't understand if that's actually the situation or if the mother's perceiving it that way and that there actually isn't a ghost. It was never kind of clarified. It was implied that there was a ghost, but again, how do you know for sure? Because it really wasn't talked about in detail the way it probably should have been. I don't know if maybe that was the author's plan to kind of keep it ambiguous and up to interpretation, but I didn't like it. It was too obscure for my liking. The dog was my absolute favorite character. He never did anything wrong. He just acted like a dog, did really cute shit. I remember while reading the book, I was like, they better not kill off this dog or I'm throwing this book in the garbage. Like that was the level of anger I had towards the book, that the dog was the only thing that was keeping me around. I am confused with why the dog's personality changed in the book without giving too many spoilers. Again, author doesn't give too much detail to that. There's no explanation. There's no, just the dog started acting weird. Why? You hint that this might be the reason, but then we find out that that's not actually the reason. So why? Just want to know. But yeah, overall, like I said before, my biggest frustration is, was there a ghost? Was the mother going crazy? Was the daughter just disturbed enough to make it seem like both twins were still alive? What actually happened? You know, we know what happened that day. We know that the other daughter is dead. But why was all this creepy stuff happening? I would like to know. I don't mind being hinted towards things or leaving it up to interpretation. I just wish there was a little bit more detail, a little bit more knowledge, explanation, something. It was really lacking. Also, how did the father find out what actually happened? Everybody knew what happened except the wife. But like, how did the father find out? Like somebody, I guess, would have had to have told him, but I don't know. Why did the daughter wait for a year before she became disturbed? Like, why did it happen a year after her death? More than a year. It was a little couple months over a year. Why did it start then? Why not in the beginning? And why was her identity being confused again a year later? It's confusing. It's frustrating. There really was a lot of missing answers, missing clues. The only thing that was made clear in this entire story is that one of the twins is dead. The father is an alcoholic, abusive, aggressive man. The wife is a self-centered male enthusiast, for lack of a nicer term, who can't stop thinking how amazing she is. And the other daughter is traumatized. That's it. That's all you really know. Oh, and they have a dog. That's about it. All in all, the idea of the story was really good. I really liked that, like, what really happened. Like, let's find out the next piece of the story. I like the mystery of not knowing the events that occurred and what was actually happening at the same time as trying to figure out what happened in the past. However, it wasn't good enough for me to be happy reading it. It wasn't good enough where I would recommend that book to somebody. I'm only happy that I was able to actually force myself to get through it and finish it, because it was tough. I was so glad that I finished it that I didn't have to touch the book anymore. Like, I don't even know where I put it, to be honest. That's how much I just wanted it away from me. Even making this video took so long because having to go back and think of the details of that story was next to impossible. I was bored. I was frustrated. I was annoyed. Like, there wasn't that substance to keep me really engaged as well as it should have been. I was drained to get through it. I've never been drained reading a book. I can only remember when I was reading my very first Stephen King book. It was The Shining that I was reading. And like the very beginning was a little slow. And I was just like, do people really read Stephen King? But once you got over that little hump, oh my God, it was so amazing. This did not have that. Okay, I'm obsessed with Stephen King. I have so many of his books. I want all of his books. This is not one of those things. I don't even want to know if this author wrote any more books. I don't care. I'd say Give it a try if you want, but don't be surprised if you won't want to finish it. Like I said, it's not terrible. It just felt like the good parts of the story were drowned out by the mother and her BS. So take that with what you will. I hope you enjoyed this. I will see you guys in the next video. Hit the like button, comment if you have anything to say, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell to be informed every time I post a new video. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!